I'm a Hoosier, and I'm a Tragesser. And the story of being a Tragesser in Indiana can be summed up in 7 words. It starts in 1777. Are you ready? Johann, Lorenz, George, Isadora, Louis, Scott, Anna. Here's some other things you should know about being a Tragesser. You work all over the state, and you take meetings with people in small towns, and they ask you if you know Roxy or Joe or Chuck Tragesser, and you say no, but I am probably related to them. Because my grandfather, Louis, was the oldest of 19 children, 17 that survived. So I don't know most of my family, but they're out there, and they've been there for 7 generations. Those 19 children were also all had the same parents. And so as you might assume, the Tragessers are also very Catholic. Except that was true for our entire story until my dad. And my mom and my dad were not married in the Catholic tradition, and so according to my mother, my grandfather believed that my brother and I were bastard children, and we get a kick out of that. We wear that like a badge of honor. The other thing you should know about being a Tragesser is that we're farmers. We work outside. We know the land, we know equipment, we know livestock, we know the skies, and we know how to work hard. And after 60 plus years of working in some heavy duty machinery, my grandfather could not hear anything. That's not true. He could hear people who he knew very well, but I can never remember him ever being able to hear me. And so for most of our lives together, we kind of orbited each other. I never spoke with him because he couldn't hear me, and he didn't really know how to handle kids. Except there's one moment I can remember sitting on a log next to him in Yellowstone National Park, and there are 1 trillion brilliant stars above us. And we were both just staring up, and that didn't require any hearing. My dad and his 5 siblings lived on a 50-acre farm in the southern part of Tipton County for 50 years. And this farm has been in our family for now 2 generations. It is my favorite place on earth. It's the place we went for every holiday, every single gathering. We were around that 10-foot-long dining room table. We were playing Frisbee golf outside. We were playing euchre at every free moment, floating right on from lunch into dinner and back again after we were done, playing in the hayloft with my cousins. And that was a place I felt like I most belonged and yet never quite belonged. This is a feeling that I created for myself in some way. Nobody ever really told me this directly, but I always kind of felt like I was not quite in on the joke, maybe not all the way in the loop, and somebody allowed me to be there while they were doing other things. This kind of, wasn't something that was ever told to me, but years and years and lifetime of feeling this way cemented this periphery Tragesser identity I took on, never fully in it, but always kind of near it. So my life took a pretty big change about a year ago when my long-term relationship, 5 years, my partner decided he didn't want a life with me. And that was pretty disorienting. That's not the story here, by the way. But it did make me reevaluate what I was doing in my life and made me go back to the thing that I felt was most true about me. And that was that I am a Tragesser. And so I was going to dig into what that really meant, no matter how much I actually felt like I belonged. And so I started running with my aunt on the country roads, asking her as many questions as I could about what it was like to live on the farm and her siblings and her aunts and uncles. I started to garden the plot that had been there for 50 years and grew the best cherry tomatoes, the best black raspberries, watermelon, and asparagus that still pops up every spring. I also started to just show up to things that I wouldn't have done before, to family parties, or one day my aunt told me that the tree that we used to play euchre in the shade of every summer afternoon when we were in town had to be cut down. And so I just showed up to take pictures and to pick up wood and to be there with her and with the tree. One day when I did that, I went up to the farm to garden a couple times a week, an hour drive up from my downtown Indianapolis apartment. And I would walk around the property up to the creek, out to the road, down to the southern most part of our property, where there was a signpost that was put up by the Tipton County Department of Transportation that read, "Southern boundary of the Miami Reservation." Ah, how did I not notice that before? This is our land. This is the place that I felt like I belonged because it belongs to us, right? This threw me for a loop for a long time, and I was not sure how to be present here in that place anymore. It has always been there, as long as I can remember. And this is a problem that was probably bigger than me. This is not something that a periphery tragesser can figure out what to do with this knowledge and understanding sinking in. So I continued to garden. And I remember specifically one day just standing up and exhaling as hard as I could into the sky, feeling this weight, and sending up those unanswered questions because I didn't know what to do with it. And then for some reason I started building kites. That's a different story, but those were also representing to me this unanswered questions of what it meant to be a tragesser and sending it up into the sky of the place that I felt like I belonged most. Around the same time, I also was taking a look at my life and realizing that in the last 5 years of my relationship, my life had gotten pretty boring, and I was not boring. And so I got my motorcycle license. My classmates in the safety class could not believe that I was taking it just to learn something new, and they were right. Nobody should get licensed after just like five hours on a machine like that. In fact, I was so confident that I had nothing else to lose, really. I wanted to just try something new that kind of had been boiling in me for a long time. I put it out there. And when I walked across the room to get my certificate from the instructor on that last day, he said to me, "We didn't think you were going to make it when you walked in here that first day." And my MO is to prove other people wrong and prove myself wrong. And so that dull ache of wanting to be a person who rode a motorcycle was now this fiery, unfounded confidence that I need to get back on that bike ASAP. So I was cruising Craigslist every day for the next couple of months, and then she found me. 1973 Honda Twin. So I took Cody, my brother, to go see Andrew, the current owner, and he was so gracious to me and answered my stupidest questions while I sat on the bike and giggled and could not think of anything else to do. So I asked him if I could sleep on it. I didn't sleep on it because I knew that I needed to get on that bike and ride it before I bought it. I couldn't sleep because that thing was a rumbly, beautiful 400-pound angel that I should not be behind the handlebars of. But I went back and took her out on the road. This was the first time I'd been on the road, mind you. And released the clutch really slowly, eventually kicked it up into second gear from first gear, and got around the corner where my dude Andrew couldn't see me anymore and approached a stop sign and rolled right through it. Sorry, Mr. Mertz. But at least I got back down at first, right? So I did that a couple more times, and my nerves were tingling, and I knew she was coming home with me. So Andrew drove her back to my apartment for me, and I stashed her behind my apartment building so nobody could see her and steal her. And for the second night, I didn't sleep at all because every 3 seconds, I was looking outside the window checking to make sure she was still there. So I feel like that's probably as close to parenthood as I'm ever going to get. That feeling is a healthy fear. I didn't tell my parents about this motorcycle for a couple months because I just didn't want them to just start praying out loud instantly for me to make good decisions. I just wanted to have this for myself for a little bit. And this thing is not even powerful enough to go out on the interstate. It was perfect, however, for backcountry Indiana roads, especially those between Indianapolis and Tipton, Indiana, where our family farm was. So I continued along this trend of just showing up to family things. And so I showed up to my cousin's graduation party, and she didn't even show up to it, by the way. And we had somehow gotten into this new tradition of scanning every family photo we had out of our books since my grandparents had passed. Apparently there's only one person in the family who knows how to scan. But I had just took great joy in this newfound presence and investigation into my family history of looking through stacks of photos and asking as many questions as I could. Loved guessing which of my aunts and uncles were the babies in these pictures. Those were great stories. But then I found the photo that made me remember, that created belonging for me. This photo became fertile ground from which I actually grew my own belonging in my family out of. So picture this. It's a perfect black and white photo, crisp, not blurry at all. Looks like a fake photo because of the theatrical lighting that's coming in this afternoon Indiana sun. It is 1917, and my great-grandfather, Isadora, is 17 years old. There's a perfect 1913 single-cylinder Indian bike sitting on its hind back kickstand on a brick street in Tipton, Indiana, Court Street. He is in a black pinstripe suit. He's wearing a white handkerchief, leather gloves, and a bow tie. And he has this coolest haircut. It looks like peach fuzz on the sides because it's so short buzz, and this amazing comb back, like you would see some bros probably someday. I heard you're one of those, or were? Yeah. He's looking ahead, ready for whatever's coming out down the road at like, hey, I got you. And I know that feeling. I know exactly what that feeling is. So I asked the story, what is this? What's going on here? And I get this. My grandfather was 17, and a few months after this photo was taken, he was riding his motorcycle and was hit by a train. And he survives. And so, of course, in tiny Tipton, he becomes the talk of the town. Everybody's buzzing about Isadora Pat, including Anna Hoffman. Anna Hoffman is enthralled with this story and wants to meet this dude with such passion and such daredevil abilities that he survives this accident. And so she does. And she marries him. And taking on his last name, she becomes Anna Tragesser. And so this became my permission to belong in my family after 7 generations of actually being here in Indiana and of it. And there are a lot more things about being a Tragesser that I am not proud of at all. I take on and belong to my own generational reactions of racism and xenophobia and homophobia and colonialism that feel really heavy on me. And I am now part of this family fully and don't quite know what to do with all of those things. And so I keep making kites and I keep gardening. And soon I will move to the farm. And this spring we will plant a tree. It will be an American chestnut because my dad always said that my grandpa thought that would be neat. Thank you.